On July 31st, 2015 was the day that a new Disney Channel franchise was catapulted, spanning across 2 sequels and 2 spin-offs. But which one is the worst and which one is the best? Hey, what's up guys? Alan here. Welcome to another episode of Thoughts on This, where I speak on my thoughts. And today I'll be giving my thoughts and ranking all 5 films in the Descendants franchise. So, let's do this! Kicking off the list is the first of 2 spin-offs, Descendants: The Rise of Red, which was released straight to Disney Plus on July of 2024. My expectation at the time this film was coming out was like up and down, because they kept on changing the name and pushing back the release date, but I was still intrigued because of this cast. Like, what was this cast? Like, this cast was a total fever dream, because who would have thought we would have had Rita Ora and Brandy appear in a Disney Channel movie? And not only that, they got Brandy and Paolo Montalban to play Cinderella and Prince Charming once again. And for those who don't know what I'm talking about, this was not the first time they played those characters, as they played those characters back in 1997 during the Wonderful World Disney presentation of Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella. And seeing them and the return of China Anne McClain and Melanie Paxton from the main trilogy, plus new talents like Kylie Cantrell, Malia Baker, Ruby Rose Turner, and Dara Renee, made this for an insane and low-key stacked cast. They all did really well, and there was a lot of things to like about this film. Like, the production value was upgraded from the previous 3 films, but the screenplay was weird. Like, the way that it was structured made the film look unfinished, like I was watching an early draft. And you can kind of sense that there was a lot of rewrites, as there were a lot of characters that would have played a role but got pushed into the background. And the pacing felt inconsistent. Like, the first half was fine. Like, I think it did a great job in building up the premise and the conflict of the daughter wanting to like carve out her own path despite like her mother's expectations. And then you incorporate the time travel elements where it took up a good chunk of the movie, and the 2 like lead characters like spent like 85% of the film to like undo the past, and that made the film like easy. Like, there was no real tension or drama after that. It's like the film was confused on what the actual tone and vibe is. There was something missing that made the film unique and stand out from its predecessors. The music was pretty forgettable. Not terrible, like there were a few standouts, but not as memorable as the music from the main trilogy. Red, Love Ain't It, and Life is Sweeter is one of the few standouts. And also Perfect Revenge, like it had a catchy chorus, and I did love the vocals from Dara Renee, but to me, Red was far more superior. Kylie Cantrell's performance was outstanding. She stole the show, and she had amazing chemistry with Rita. But her chemistry with Malia was a bit forced. It was hard to connect with the 2 of them, but individually they were fine. Brandy was astonishing in this film. Even though she had little screen time, she still graced the screen with her presence. And it's crazy that she was playing Cinderella again. Her and Paolo's casting felt like fanfare in the best way possible. It was like they casted the 2 of them specifically just to draw more eyeballs to this film. The film did a great job with a lot of the technical elements, like costume design, set design, and visual effects, but as a whole, there was no identity. Compared to its predecessors, this was a step down. Now let's move to the other spin-off that was released not too long ago, Descendants: Wicked Wonderland. The film had its minor problems, like not fully addressing the events from the previous film and crowding it with too many characters. Like, there were so many characters that were just there, but it was still a big improvement. Like, the story was a lot more focused and straight to the point, and I felt like it had more of an identity. The production value was bigger than the last film. From the visual effects and physical sets, every detail made Wonderland look like this vibrant, campy, and immersive world. It was more visually stunning than the previous film. Like, the cinematography made certain scenes in Wonderland feel chaotic and mind-bending. Like, there was a portion where the camera was rotating clockwise as the characters were coming out of the rabbit hole, and that pulled me into the wackiness that we're getting in for. The whole sequence of them going down the rabbit hole and the mad sequence was wild and over the top, which matched the aesthetic of Wonderland. Of all the new characters, Max was the most interesting. Everyone else was a hit or miss, aside from Hazel, who was actually really funny, and Chessie, who did a great job in stirring the pot. And I gotta say, this was the best voice work from Awkwafina. She was sleazy, sinister, and compared to other characters she's voiced, this is the one that is distinct to a character, where it's not just a character voiced by Awkwafina. She had range, dynamic, personality, charisma, and everything. And like the last film, her casting was also a fever dream. Because if you were to tell me that Awkwafina will be in a Descendants film, let alone a Disney Channel original movie, I would have laughed. But here we are. It's insane that they managed to get her in this film. It is also insane that Rita and Brandy came back, and I love that these two were given more to do in this film. Their duet was beautiful, and it was nice that we got to see more of them together. And I kind of like the music in this film more than in Rise of Red. Mad is one of my favorites. Go Live It, Did You Hear About Them, and Dancing with the Enemy were among the standouts. Still pretty forgettable, but still slightly better than the previous. The character dynamics were better this time around. The relationship between Red and Chloe had a lot more depth, and I was able to actually connect with them in this film. And I love that they explored the conflict where one has felt left out and used. It made their chemistry that more genuine. And I really like Chloe in this film. She was a lot more compelling, and her villain arc was more organic than Audrey's. Her duet with Max had me captivated. The romance between Red and Louise Madrigal was random and just out of nowhere. It's like the writers put two random people together for the sake of having another power couple in the franchise. Although the film still had its problems and it's inferior to the main Descendants trilogy, it was still better than the previous film. Rounding out the top 3 is, of course, the main trilogy, and at number 3, the film that started it all, the very first Descendants. Most people grew up on High School Musical or Camp Rock. I grew up on Descendants. As a longtime Disney fan, I loved the premise right away. The sons and daughters of Disney villains started off, as villains, and then learned to be good once they're exposed to a different environment, was genius, and for a film at this caliber, it fits. And the characters were very well written and likable. The villain kids were just instant favorites the minute you meet them. Seeing their progression throughout the film was gratifying. They started out as these misguided kids, and we get to know more about them deeper into the film, in terms of their interests and other layers that made them more than just the kids of these notorious villains. They are simply children who are pressuring themselves to please their parents, and that makes them more complex and multidimensional. Ben was one of the best characters out of the Oradon kids. Him being the son of Belle and the Beast was what made him the perfect character to see past the family status of these villain kids. I wish it was fleshed out more of why he decided to bring them over and what really made him fall for Mal. The romance between Mal and Ben was sweet, giving us the classic Romeo and Juliet, star-crossed lovers, lovers from completely different worlds, but I felt like there was something missing. The music, like in previous Disney Channel original movies, is the highlight of this film. Run to the Core was a great opening song. It was a great way to introduce each of the main 4 characters and gives us a gist of who they are. Plus the instrumentals, the chorus, and choreography is what made this iconic song such a memorable classic. It's on the same wavelength of the songs from the High School Musical series, which was directed by Kenny Ortega, who also directed the films in this franchise. And props to him, he did a fantastic job with both franchises. And don't forget the other standouts like If Only, Did I Mention, and Set It Off. Honestly, those were the best songs of the entire film. The performances added that extra charm to it. This film made me love Dove Cameron and Cameron Boyce even more. Them plus Boo Boo Stewart and Sophia Carson had great chemistry with each other. Kristen Chenoweth had a lot of fun with this film, and she had amazing chemistry with Dove. Those two made a great mother-daughter pairing, which is why it made sense that they played mother and daughter again in Hairspray Live. The production design made each setting distinct from one another. I love the contrast between the two lands, like the grungy, ghetto area of the Isle to the clean, luxurious, natural environment of Oregon. Even with the costume design, like it was distinct to like their personalities, their parents, and what setting they're from. And I love that they also established which kid belongs to that certain Disney character. It was one of the fun little Easter eggs and other Disney references that have been sprinkled in this film. This film had a great message of you get to choose who you want to be, and that your status and parents does not define who you are, and it's something that anyone of any age can enjoy. Plus, it will introduce the younger audience to like classic Disney while also attracting the older demographic who grew up watching like Disney in its golden age and Renaissance era. And rounding out number 2 is the third and final film in the main trilogy, Descendants 3. So this film combined the best qualities of the first 2 films, and it was well executed from the production value to the emotional weight, but the story could have been better. To me, the writing was lazy, predictable, and clunky. Like, we knew that Audrey was going to be the main villain after the on-set photos got leaked online. And not only that, characters like Uma, Hades, and Celia were pushed off to the side for the sake of Audrey. And I felt like there was so much more potential to add more drama with these 3 characters specifically. Like, the rivalry between Uma and Mal, like in the second film, was so good. Like, their blood feud was so like deep, and they could have explored it more in this film, but I felt like their rivalry was resolved too quickly, and there was like untapped potential to have that rivalry end more organically, or resolve it more organically rather. Hades was the most wasted out of all the new characters introduced in this film. Like, the teaser set him up to play a bigger role in this film, but he was only in the film during the beginning and near the end. Like, I guess I was expecting more. I also felt like Audrey's villain arc was a bit of a lazy way to put her into the story after not being in the second film. Like, I guess it's because that I wish they connected it more with Wicked World, because in Wicked World, like, Audrey showed no villain intentions or held any grudges. But I guess it's just me. Other than that, there was a lot of things to appreciate about this film. Like, the set design was bigger than the previous film. Like, the archway at the Isle of the Lost captured the aesthetic and tone that this is a rundown, vandalized, but still fun place. And the fairy cottage was accurate to Aurora's cottage and Sleeping Beauty. Every detail that was put into that set was well thought out. And the costume designs, more specifically for the VK, stepped up. Their signature colors remain, but their style has evolved so much from the first film. And I do like Evie's outfit more in this film than in the previous ones, because I think the red and black blends with her villain heritage more. Same with Mal's, like, we get the best of both worlds with Maleficent and Hades. Another aspect I could appreciate was how much this film did in trying to bring back the same vibe from the very first film, which was smart since this was the final one in the main trilogy. I love how this film opened up immediately with the mission from the last film. Good to Be Bad encapsulates the growth and development of the 4 main characters from the first 2 films. The direction they went for gives off shades of the first film from Mal's narration and the element of taking more kids from the Isle to Oregon. The rest of the songs were not as good as the second one, but were still fun to listen to. And I like how each of them experimented with a different style that was different from other songs from the previous 2 films. Do What You Gotta Do is my personal favorite. The rock and Broadway styles meshed well together, and it was a head-bopping jam. Dove and Cheyenne Jackson were an infectious duet in this song. Night Falls was an okay song. I felt like it was trying to mimic It's Going Down, but I do love the dance fight choreography with the swords. And of course, I cannot not mention Queen of Mean. Not too fond of Audrey's villain arc, but this song was surprisingly good. Not my favorite, but Sarah Jeffrey did nail this number. One Kiss was probably the most unnecessary song, but it was still a fun number, and I like that Sophia had a solo moment. My Once Upon a Time was an emotional ballad that sums up Mal's journey throughout the trilogy. Dove was awe-inspiring, and it made for the perfect send-off for not just her character, but her time with the Disney Channel. This was the perfect song to wrap up her time, and it felt like a goodbye to our main characters that grown so much since the first film. Witnessing how far they have come was riveting, and seeing this film does hit different after the passing of Cameron Boyce. He was so talented, and I felt like there was so much for him to accomplish that he was gone way too soon. Like, he should still be around. And the film really capitalized on the emotional weight. The ending was a great final curtain call, and the last scene where it was just the four of them marked an amazing end to a very solid trilogy. Even though the film felt convoluted, like they tried to cram in so much, it was still a satisfying film that wrapped up the story arc of the three main films. And lastly, taking the top spot is the second film in the trilogy, Descendants 2. This film took everything that was so good about the first film and built upon it by making it bigger and more fun. The set designs were bigger, the theatrics, choreography, which was very memorable, the music, everything about it was fantastic. Ways to Be Wicked was a great cold open, and a reminder of this is what you loved about the first film's music. It complemented the aesthetic of the film and the VKs. It captured the tone and feel, and it was a great appetizer for what we're in for. This whole soundtrack is the best. I love every song on it. I've listened to the soundtrack all the way through, and it's way better than the first film's soundtrack. What's My Name is the best villain song from the franchise, and it suits Uma really well. Chillin' Like a Villain is my favorite. It's catchy, and it'll have you snapping your fingers. Plus, I like that we got Evie, Ben, Carlos, and Jay singing more in this film. It's a fun song that connects with the story. The friendship between Mal and Evie has been one of the sweetest moments of the first film, and this film really elevated it. Space Between really shows how special their bond is, and it's the most comforting and wholesome song. Dove and Sophia sounded great together, and they had impeccable chemistry. It's Going Down is not necessarily my favorite, but it does fit with the tone of the showdown going for battle sequence, and the chorus was really catchy. You and Me was an uplifting finale song that brings the films and franchise themes full circle. Plus, I thought it was better than Set It Off, which was also a great song. The story was impeccable. It continued the story of these villain kids living among their heroes and explores how one of them, and in this case Mal, is adjusting to their new life and how they're dealing with the responsibilities and this newfound fame that came with it. And the conflict between her and Ben is what drove the story and character development. And I also like how they showed how the other VKs are adjusting to their new life. Like Evie is a fashion designer, and Jay is the captain of a sports team, and Carlos is trying to ask a girl out to the dance. It showed how much these kids have matured from the first film. Carlos' storyline was my favorite. Him struggling to ask her out to the dance was sweet, and those two made a wholesome couple. Uma was such a great villain for this. Her motivations were clear, grudge was justified, and the rivalry between her and Mel was deep and had me invested. It added that tension with her being jealous that she was not selected to go to Oregon, and the performance from China and McClane was vicious. The rage, wittiness, and stellar vocals she brought was brilliant. She was a well-written character, but I wish she appeared in more scenes. She was in 5 major scenes, and I felt like she could have been in at least one more. The pirate thing was a bit strange, but she still made the film more dramatic. The other characters introduced in the second film made the film more fun. Gil and Harry were hilarious, and Disney brought in the film's most sweet and wholesome moments. And the CGI was still pretty cheesy like the first film, but it was still an improvement. Overall, everything else from the story, music, and production value was leveled up. To me, this is the best film in the entire franchise. This franchise has spanned across different demographics and is still appealing to younger audiences today. And if they find a way to continue the franchise with a couple more films, I wouldn't be mad, as long as they can introduce new characters and come up with some really compelling storylines. Then they could produce films as much as they want. Alright, that sums up all of my thoughts and ranking on all 5 Descendants films, and if you agree or disagree, let me know down in the comments, and if you haven't already subscribed, that would really mean a lot, and let me know which Descendants film is your favorite. That's all I have to say, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!